Do you feel like you could do with some insight into your users' biggest problems, but also what are their biggest successes using your software? If so, then user interviews is a great way to get deep insights that can actually inform the designs and improvements that you make to your product. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to conduct great user interviews. So recently, a client of ours came and asked us if we could redesign the UX of their software, Virtual Summit software. And Mark, the founder of VSS, he said to me, hey, to inform this process of UX, we'd love it if you could do some user interviews. It would be really great. We could do with the good insights, and I think it would really inform your process for design. I thought, what a brilliant idea. So we jumped straight in. In this process, I'm going to tell you about 5 steps that we did that produced a really great process. We got some great insights. It helped us to focus on what improvements to make on the product. It helped us to refine the ICP. And in fact, there were a few profiles that we decided not to pursue anymore because the users having the most success with the product were a special kind of ideal customer profile that we decided to hone in on. And thirdly, it helped us to know just what not to waste time and energy on, what not to focus on, which I think can be a huge time drain for a lot of companies if you haven't decided where to focus your efforts on your product. So those were the benefits, and here's a process that we went upon. So the first step was that we planned out the logistics. I recommend having somebody who can facilitate this process, who can reach out to users, ask them for their time, offer them an incentive or a thank you, something like a voucher or a discount, because they're obviously giving us some valuable insights and voluntarily giving up their time to do so. Also, set up your systems. So we used email, we used Calendly to book in the calls, and we used Zoom and recorded these calls on Zoom with screen share in a lot of cases. And then also just have a plan for the final step, which is just going through the findings and sharing that out with your team. So most of that I did with Google Sheets and Google Docs and Google Slides, actually, always using the Google Suite for these kind of quick and easy processes. So the second step is to define user segments. So another great idea Mark had was, hey, Peter, why don't we split these interviews into 3 types of users, 3 cohorts. So we looked at new users, did a series of interviews with those. We looked at existing users, did interviews with them, and we also did interviews with users that were either thinking about cancelling or have cancelled or churned very recently. So you can see why that's a great idea. We got 3 different types of insights at 3 different stages of the consumer life cycle, and 3 different areas that we can implement great product designs to improve Virtual Summit software. So the third step is to write your questionnaires out. Now, with these 3 segments, we did 3 questionnaires, and it actually takes time to write great questions because you want to get to the bottom of any problems, any challenges or difficulties. You want to get, sometimes beyond the surface answer or symptom and get to the root cause of problems. So you need clever questions, and it takes time to think those through. Also, you want a standardized format to ask all of your users so that they have the same questions, and then you can go and compare and contrast answers later on. And then the 4th step is to conduct your interviews. So here are some tips for conducting really great interviews. First of all, ask open-ended questions. Don't ask yes/no questions. You want questions that provide context, that enable your users to elaborate, talk about specific occasions, explain why problems occurred, explain difficulties they had, and explain what they were trying to achieve. That's always really important, right? What was stopping them getting the results that they were looking for? Open-ended questions really help with that. What you find when you start asking them is that some users will elaborate and give you a very long answer and will happily continue talking, and that's great. You can almost just sit back and enable them to really elaborate on their answers. Other users, you'll find, are very succinct with their answers. They're very tight-lipped. They might not give you all the information you need, and it's very good practice to ask them, teaser questions that kind of follow up, that ask them to elaborate on their answers and give you more insight. So the who, what, how, when, why kind of questions, these will really help in those situations. And don't feel that you need to kind of jump in. When you ask a question, you can leave it there. If there's a moment's silence, leave it, because often users are either trying to recollect times when they use the software, or they're trying to just remind themselves or get context again, because they might not be logged in. So another great tip here is to ask them to log in and screen share if they're talking about a specific situation, or even if they're having trouble remembering one, because the minute they log in, they start sharing their screen, it all comes back to them and you can see, and then they'll explain, there was a time I was trying to achieve X and I had this problem. Sometimes on those calls you can see immediately what the problem is, and you can almost get an idea for solving that right away. So those are really good practices, and that they'll ensure that your interviews do give you good insights, and your users are comfortable during that interview process. So the final step here is to just review your findings. So what you want to do is spend some time going through all of the interviews. You'll probably have video files here like we had. Sometimes I get transcripts of the key points, and then you compare and contrast all the answers together. But fundamentally, you're going to get two types of information from this. You're going to get observations and insights. So observations are going to be thoughts, feelings, experiences, and they're usually anecdotal. And then insights are going to be actual key pieces of information that could be statistics or data or metrics. So for instance, at the end of this process, I was able to go back to virtual summits and say, hey, look, X percentage of users are cancelling because of such and such a reason. Or I could say Y percentage of users are not converting from free trial to the upgrade because they're considering this, or they're having a difficulty with this, or they're struggling to decide because of another factor. So those are really great outcomes that you can get. You've got anecdotal feedback and you've also got data and insights. And you want to review these. The key thing here is that not everything that the users say is gospel. They won't always tell you, the right way to solve the problem. Sometimes they'll express a desire or a wish that if you actually built it, as well as I do as a software founder, that they won't use that, or you'll end up building features that don't really matter. So you have to use discernment, and you have to use some clever thinking, and then innovate and design to make sure that you get to the root of the problems that really do make a difference and really do help you to improve your product so that you can get more users and grow. I hope this video helps you to conduct great user interviews, and I'd love to hear how your user interviews in the past have gone, and I'd love to hear if you do any in the future, what findings you get from those. Best of luck.